Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for jumping into this group with me and being open minded, learning about sugar addiction. It's a hard thing to face. It's something we don't really want to face, I think, if I can speak for the masses, because admitting that it's a real thing means maybe we have to do something about it. So, that being said, I commend you for at least being open minded and willing to receive some information. So, right now it is after the Easter holiday, which is a big candy holiday. I myself have fallen victim to candy, 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 candy. But I'm not beating myself up because I know there's a biological reason behind it. Unfortunate biological reason in that humans weren't always wired to crave sugar. Over the course of time and in our society, it's just become a pandemic, really. So, where do I get my information? I want you to know that I'm not just talking out of my ears here. I took this course called Food Cravings, Habits, and Emotions. I took it, I think, 2 years ago, actually. It's been a while. And I have some pages flagged, and this information has stuck with me for a long time. Like I said, knowing things doesn't always feel good because then we feel like we have to change. So there have been periods in my life where I just shove this information away. But I am struggling with sugar addiction and I am looking to rewire my habits and fix these things that I have trained my brain to do and these foods that I've trained my brain to want. So, that being said, I'm in a season of my life where I really want to help others become more aware, kind of pull the wool off of your eyes and let you know, first of all, don't beat yourself up if you really do struggle with sugar addiction or just emotional eating in general. I titled this group Flush Away Sugar because sugar is the easiest one to pull out of those food groups that are marketed to us. Potato chips, Ho-Hos, Little Debbie's, all of that stuff. Even these frozen meals that we think are good or not so bad on the spectrum, they're full of what we call hyperpalatable things. And I'll talk a little bit later this week about what that even means, hyperpalatable. We know the word part hyper means more or a lot of. Palatable is taste. How does it taste? If you say, well, that's a very palatable meal, it means it tastes very good. So our food industry has kind of sabotaged us with these hyperpalatable foods. These things that just send our brain into, think of it like a light, like alert, alert, alert. And it's like delicious, 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 even though it's not real food, it's not whole food. So the thing that I really wanted to impart with you today, because I'm really passionate about this. So food addiction and drug addiction, are they the same thing in the brain? Isn't that a scary thing to ask yourself? So from this pamphlet I read, in some ways, food addiction is more complex than drug addiction. Numerous studies show that repeated exposure to high quantities of palatable and especially hyperpalatable foods loaded with sweet, fat, and salt strongly activates the brain's reward pathway and triggers addiction-like changes in the brain reward circuits. So the more we eat, the more we literally rewire our brain. Isn't that scary? Or interesting, at least? I don't want to, like doom and gloom because there's a solution, and together I think we can encourage each other and keep our goals right in front of us so that we want to push past these societal norms that are developed in our country. So the thing that I liken this to, they've done studies in rats and they feed them just sugar cubes, and the rats who keep eating the sugar cubes, they need more and more and more to do the action that will prompt the rat to get the sugar. Does that make sense? So instead of one sugar cube one time, they'll do the action, but they'll find that their brain centers don't light up until maybe they eat 2 sugar cubes, onward and so forth. So literally we're widening these chemical pathways and we need more and more and more. So if you ever notice, like, I'll be real, and I'll be a real life example here. A couple Oreos used to be like good. That was a few years back. I was very diligent with the nutrition, the food I was putting in my body, the things I was doing, for exercise and things like that. I was on a good roll with that. So one or two Oreos was like, whoa, that was a good treat. Now it's like a whole row. So over time, different things have happened in my life. So I will give myself a little bit of grace because I've broken a leg, I've lost a dad. Like, things happen, so you're not always as committed to these goals. You have to make room in your life for seasons. So that being said, I'm not, just totally punishing myself or putting myself in an area where I'm like, that is so bad. Does that make sense? So anyways, over time, it's taken me more and more and more Oreo cookies to get that same, oh, I feel satisfied now response. And that's because these pathways in our brain are widened, and so we need more. They're wider, so they allow for more of the serotonin to go through, which is the pleasure hormone in our brains. So more and more and more goes through, and we need more and more and more of the stimulus to elicit that response. So we need more cookies to feel better, to feel that same, that was good. That was a nice little treat. And then you look down and the whole row's gone. You're like, oh my God, what have I done? Because it's going to play out. You're going to feel sluggish. You are maybe not going to feel so great about your choices because that's like 1,000 calories right in that row. And you're working really hard during the day and it's 8 p.m. and you just ate a whole row of Oreos. Now what? So that's my life right now. The more you know, the more you educate yourself, the more you equip yourself, you can start to retrain your habits and be very present and mindful in what you're doing and kind of halt yourself before the whole row is gone or before you even buy them at the store. That's the goal. But baby steps. So, sugar addiction is real. Food addiction in general is real. We'll talk about that this week. We'll talk about how we can flush. And it's not so much like, well, I'm going to drink a gallon of water and then I will flush all this sugar out from yesterday and then ta-da, game over. A lot of it's going to be distraction, mind over mood, and of course, when we're hydrated, we don't feel like we have to grab for the first food as much. When we're hydrated, we can actually pay attention to, is my stomach growling? Am I physically hungry? So, thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited. I'm excited to dig back in for myself, and I'm excited to help you along the way. So let's flush away sugar, and let's have a kick-ass week.